Pakistan or neighborhoods, so they took that over.
Well,
and they gave most of that region back too.
Well, to them, the terrorists are the people who occupy those lands, which are the Israelis.
So here's another thing, right? So Israeli, they're genetically mostly white, right? Like, what if it's just part of their?
It depends on which. Majority of them aren't.
Silence peasant when I'm speaking. Okay, so the majority.
No, they're not.
Ancestry, right?
They're not. They're not mostly white.
It is part of their genetics to massacre people.
They're not.
No,
they're not. Right? They are going to continue to
kill people. I'm not going to let you finish your point. You're wrong.
Mother.
Hello.
This is Mother.
Hello.
Mother.
Go on mute.
No, you stop for a second. You're saying something that's like, and this is really annoying when I hear people say that as a white person, having to hear people call them white. Yes, there's a.
Go on mute.
Stop. Less than, so if you're only talking about the Jewish population there, less than half of them are what you would, they have, I guess you could say, large share of European ancestry, but they are, more than half of the Jews are actually people who never left the fucking Middle East, North Africa. But then you have, 20% of them are Arabs, in addition to the Jewish population. Like, it's a majority brown country.
Okay, are Arabs white? Yes. Are people that are Jewish people white? Are they north of the what is it called? The African.
You have this like weird woke idea of Jewish people.
Can you shut the fuck up?
No, you're fucking wrong about Jewish people.
No, you're not going to cut me off every time I see you. I don't know who this white man thinks he is, but the Jewish people are white, and they need to get over it, right? Like every category, they fall into the white category, and they're mad. They're mad because they are white. They have always been white. They will continue to be white.
I just did the research just now, ChatGPT, and technically the largest majority of people in Israel definitely are European descent. It says it right here.
They are majority white.
Largest majority of what?
The largest majority within Israel since its founding of 40 is European descent. It says it right here.
Sure.
So what I'm
yes,
saying
but
is
they're a minority.
Then you have the Masrahis. Then you have the Sefrahi Jews,
yes,
which are the Middle Eastern, the Africans, and the Asians.
Y'all
I get what you're saying, but you're not.
I'm correct.
Hold on.
And then you have the 20% Arabs.
Oh my God!
Not the minorities are not the.
All right, amazing. So they may be the largest ethnic group in Israel. However, when it comes to the Mizrahi and the Sephardi Jews, and then you have the Arabs, they outnumber the quote unquote European Jews. So they're
yeah, but you can't equate that to that 20% of the Arabs. They're not Jewish, so you can't do that.
But 20,
Israel's so brown that it is fucking European resistance.
Like I don't know what you're like when I see most of these fucking Israelis like on TV or anywhere, I cannot tell them apart from a fucking Arab. I don't like this is so silly.
Some of them you can't. You ain't lying about that, and that's because they adapted the culture. Remember, they stole the look, the food. You know what I mean? So they start. When you're
which one stole the culture?
The European Jews.
Okay, but when they end up mixing, but wouldn't the majority of Jews are non-white? Well, and they stayed in the Middle East and North Africa. Wouldn't they be eating the same Middle Eastern shit that everybody else ate?
No, that's not true because a lot of them have different cultures, especially the African Jews.
They don't eat food similar to that of Algerians.
Somewhat, some of it, yes, but some of them,
they do.
Some of them, some of them have also their African cultures of different kind of foods and languages.
I'm sure the Ethiopian Jews eat with their hands and a lot of lentils and beans and shit.
Yeah,
just like
that's just a custom of people of religious faith. That's why.
There's no such thing as an Israeli dish. Simplified. I don't know if that's what you're trying to say. But I do want to point out that resistance, it's that actually the majority of Israelis are Mizrahi. But when you look at the leadership of Israel and all the founders of Zionism, they're all Ashkenazi. The majority.
Oh, yeah, we know that. All their prime ministers, they're all a bunch of Europeans.
So it says right here, it says 80%, it says 47% of Israeli Jews are of Ashkenazi descent. Globally, 80% of the world's Jewish population is Ashkenazi. So the majority of the Jewish population is white descended, Euro descent, descended whites, right? You can get triggered all you want, but the reality is these are white people with probably curly hair, right? So now back to my fucking statement. These people are inherently violent as white people, right?
You're not doing the math right, Nicholas.
And they are learning to massacre people. It's through their genetic ancestry. They have picked this up from other Europeans, and they are just acting out according to their...
Amazing.
You just proved the point that less than 50% of that country is Ashkenazi.
But no, it's less than 50% of the Jews in that country are Ashkenazi. If I recall correctly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then the Jews are only 80%, then you have 20% that's Arab.
So it's like hilarious that you're trying to like turn Israel into this white country when in reality it's like probably mostly people that have like lived in that region for like thousands of years.
If you don't mind me asking, was LGBT in that land until the European Jews?
What is the story of the Sodom and Gomorrah?
47% is not a small minority. These people have been predominantly white this entire time. This whole notion that they're not white, even in Mizrahi, I would consider as white. If you are going to get triggered about that, they fall as white into my category.
You just like hate white people that much,
I mean, if you wanted to like look at colorful quotes, even I think Netanyahu even said something about, was it the Golani Brigade or whatever? I guess they were mostly ethnically non-European Jews, and he'd made some like off-color comment. I don't know, like the 80s or something. It's like, oh, but they'll at least have smart white officers or something like that. I mean. I've heard that in decades past, they didn't, they did see each other as ethnically different, and maybe there's some little bit of.
They still do. Involved. There's still racism there. They still like that there. What do you mean?
I've heard today that's not really much of a thing.
No, it's like that. They even put the Ethiopian, the black colored Jews. They put them in the front lines and everything. They're not command. They don't hold no shots. You ask some of the soldiers; they'll tell you.
This is the annoying part when you group like this large amount of people. Like when you talk about the Mizrahi Jews, if we're talking about the Libyans, the Iraqi Jews that are Mizrahi descendant and moved down there, those are fucking white people. If you're talking about the ones that came from Africa that are also descendants of Mizrahi Jews, those are obviously African people, right?
Do you think Iraqi Christians
African ancestry? As part of their DNA at significantly larger quantities. But we group them all together, and now because some of them have some African, you were saying that the majority of them are African, and that is flawed. The majority of the Mizrahi people are still white.
The majority of them have ancestors that never stepped foot in Europe. They literally are not. When people say white, they mean European.
I'm aware that most of these are descended from the Middle Eastern, Northern Middle East. Those are all white people to me. Arabs are white to me. So this is a fundamental difference in viewpoint of, do Arabs qualify as white, yes or no? For me, these are all
amazing.
Yeah. I know. I would say that they're pretty brown, to be honest.
Arabs go from, there's some that are, I guess, white passing, but for the most part, nobody's, if you had to describe the person to like a 911 operator, you'd be like, what does he look like? Oh, Middle Eastern man, medium colored skin or some shit. And, probably bushy eyebrows or whatever the fuck. I don't know. They look different.
They start getting whiter just quickly. They just start getting, like, they will get whiter in the Balkans and, like, in Turkmenistan and, like, that whole region. But, like, no, it kind of moves the further north you go. But, like, I wouldn't consider, like, Turkish people white. Would you?
Yeah, I just came from Turkey, actually, and these people were shockingly very European-looking.
They
with
are
fucking
very
light, pale skin, right?
Are.
The entire fucking city of Istanbul was full of light-skinned fucking European people. Yes, I would consider them as white. If you ever travel to these countries, you will realize that a significant portion of these people are just as white as Europeans.
Turkey's very diverse.
So you're missing out.
Also has a shit ton of European.
You asked me a question, I gave you an answer.
Well, but you're missing out on like thousands of years of cultural difference to like the Europeans versus like the Turks, the Ottoman Empire and everything to do with that. I mean, there's like people that would be closer aligned that would be black to the Ottoman Empire than the Turks would be to like modern Europeans. So you're missing out on many historical facts right now.
Cultural differences doesn't make them any less white, brother. I don't know what tangent we're going on, but I don't know how this is even.
Well, it's not just. It's
What
not
about
just
an albino
about.
black person?
It's not just about their. It's goddamn. It's not even. And part of the reason why I think it's useful when they say white, it's meaning European, is because they're outside of the borders of Europe. As you go into the Levant, Middle East, you start getting people that I would say phenotypically start looking a lot differently, but also they're culturally much different. The cuisine suddenly drastically changes. Of course, their religion drastically changes. Their language family, the Semitic languages that they speak, drastically different. And I guess when you use terms like, oh, they're just these white people. No, these are people that have been in the Middle East for centuries or thousands of years actually, and they haven't left. And they literally, that's why, they were not eating bagels and like, what the fuck, mothball soup or whatever, they were, obviously a lot more similar to the other Middle Easterners.
Well, I mean, Pepe, like you could look at the Syrians, for example, and I would say the Syrians are like closer ethnically tied to Jerusalem versus Europe, because that's just the fact. They're like, that's their ethnic background. So it's like crazy that this person is like trying to make this point that it's what their skin color matters more than their ethnic background. It's like mind-blowing to me.
You get offended at the concept that maybe Jewish people are white. And I think that's
well, you can say some Jewish people are white. I just think, but saying they're all white, that's not accurate.
Obviously, I'm not talking about
if white
all
means
of that.
European,
I know
it's not accurate.
Jews exist. I know Ethiopian Jews exist. They are not the majority. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the majority of the Jewish people.
Well, this conversation is getting kind of retarded. We're just talking.
It is.
Pepe, do you think what happened at Waco was okay?
I'm not a fucking expert, but do I think that burning a bunch of men and women and children alive? No, that's obviously. I think there should have been a much better outcome. Especially when they had surveillance on this guy when he left to work, when he came back, like it wasn't necessary, right? Yeah, I would say that Ruby Ridge was unnecessary. I do think that, this guy, David Koresh guy, was one real sick piece of shit. I mean, obviously,
he was a kid diddler too, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
He was diddling all the kids. He was fucked up.
He's a very disgusting person.
So it would be justified to go after that one guy, right? Especially when you have surveillance and the technology to track him and stuff. So how is that different from what's happening in Gaza? Oh, yeah, that's a lot different. Well, first of all, like in Waco, Texas, they could control the environment. It's one compound in a state where they could see who's coming and going very easily, as opposed to like a highly densely populated area where because of their guerrilla warfare tactics, because of where they hide weaponry, because of their tunnel system, you don't know. How do you really target? And these are tens of thousands of people, not one person. It becomes a whole different. It basically becomes a war, as opposed to, I don't know, just trying to bust one guy. Well, are you aware of how Israel procures its targets? I've listened in. There was a couple people that had experience with this from the U.S. military as well. I know it involves intelligence, and then depending on who it is, I believe they also have what would be a ratio of how many people can you put at risk when dropping a bomb, for example. How many innocent casualties are acceptable will depend on like the number of people you're targeting, who they are, how important they are. Correct. It's called there's a chain of command. Yeah, it's an AI program. It's called Lavender. but they nicknamed it "Where's Daddy?" because instead of targeting the militants when they're in combat, they wait for them to go home to their families and then they bomb the entire house. And a lot of the time, the AI system actually makes mistakes. It might get the guy with the same name. It might get a house where the militant had moved from. And the ratio is 25 for every low-level combatant and up to 100 civilians for a higher-ranking combatant.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't quite know how that's different for other first world militaries when they're in war. I know that a lot of people have talked about this after the fact. People that have served where they know they ended up, targeting individuals and facilities with what ended up being faulty intel, and then innocent people were being killed. I know this happens. There's a guy, John Spencer. I've listened to him talk. I don't really. You have to understand. I know it happens. Period. So just because it happens doesn't show me that Israel's doing it the wrong way. I don't. Do they do it worse than other first world countries? I haven't seen that. So I don't really, and it's not my area of expertise or something I've really looked into. So I don't really know even how to respond to that.
You look at the ratio, like when 50% of the casualties are children, at least.
But that doesn't say anything.
Is that indiscriminate or not? Well, you compare it to other first world countries.
Yeah, including first world countries like in Afghanistan.
How do you mean it doesn't mean anything?
Oh, sure. Because especially Afghanistan, it was very common to be fighting children. The children had guns.
Children of how old?
In Afghanistan, they could be as young as 10, 11, 12 even. I mean, they're a bit different, I would think, than Gaza. But, I mean, we do know that there are terrorists. There are people that fight for Hamas that are under 18.
Hey, Pepe. When you say 10 years old, right? An average kid, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you name it, right? You think the average 10-year-old can handle an AK-47 and go like freaking ham?
In Afghanistan, yeah.
The average kid can pull a wire and fucking blow up a bomb, though.
Oh, my goodness.
I think we'll talk about Sudan because there's been hundreds of thousands of more people that have died in that war than in the Gaza conflict. So I think we should talk about that one.
Well, that's unfortunately, it's just a bunch of dirt poor, dark-skinned Africans in a part of the world none of us have. Mainly done by the northern. If anything,
a lot of Arabs killing a lot of black people.
That's true. If you look at northern Sudan, I mean, it's kind of, I believe the Nile goes through it, and the top part is more desertish, but they have the river. And then South Sudan, as we get into like the more tropical areas, it's pretty, it's very black. And yeah, there's been this has been going on for several decades, and I'm just being realistic. It's a place that very few of us have ties to in the West. And when we think of sub-Saharan Africa in particular, we generally have a very low bar for what we think is atrocious. Because I feel like a lot of people have the sense that this is a place where starvation, disease, and war are just endemic to that area. Yeah, so we don't. I think that's the reason it doesn't get much attention, but you are correct. Like it is, we do focus more on Israel. And I do think that part of the reason why is because if you look at Israel, I mean, looking at the music festival, it almost mirrors America in a weird way, how the people are dressed, not necessarily how they look, but somewhat. But it looked like a modern country. Like you can kind of put yourself in their shoes. Like, oh my God, this could be. Imagine if this happened in America, and they had to deal with this savagery. And so
Perhaps it's a better question is, if you fly from the top of Pisrael all the way to the bottom of Pisrael with a commercial helicopter, it's like 40 minutes, not even. With an Apache, it's like 9 minutes. Right? An Apache goes way beyond 200 miles an hour. Right? And like, why did it take them at least 4 hours to respond?
I don't know.
That is a very important question, don't you think? Like this tiny little leap of land. It takes you 4 hours, but every 30
I guess
feet,
I would ask this.
But there is normally every 30 feet there is an 18-year-old that stands there with a machine gun to blast an innocent Palestinian. Now like nobody noticed for like 4 hours. Like 4 hours?
Sure. I think that was kind of easy. I think that one's kind of a lot easier. So we have like troops that can be put on standby for deployment within 24 hours. I believe like some of the like the different airborne brigades.
You know which two?
Can you believe that this
And the
retard thinks that
Rangers.
this is an inside job? This conflict.
Yeah, I'm going to
Believe this
disagree.
retard-
Pepe,
But-
you know which two big
Not an inside
events
job, you can't
have like, hold on, Sam Rosen. What a name.
It's not an
You
inside
know,
job. You dumbass
the-
retard. Fucking piece of shit retard.
Okay, gingerbread, calm your titties.
All right.
You start lactating. Do you know which
Oh
two
my God.
It's
other
not an inside
events?
job, you dumb fucking moron retard. Fucking
Okay,
idiot.
we get time for your medication.
Well,
You know
there
which
was
two
a
other-
stand down order. There
Do you
was
know which
definitely
two-
a stand.
Yeah, do you know which two other events had exactly the identical?
Not a fucking
sort of
inside
look?
job, you dumb fucking.
Well, just let him get it out. Just let him get it. I don't agree that it was an inside job, but just let him say it.
Do you know which two other events had like the similarities as in patterns of like these events? It was the bombing of the USS Liberty, right?
Oh my fucking god.
And it was the same thing with 9/11. It was